Hello, thanks for joining our meeting. So today is October 11th, and we have a regular CDF Technical Oversight Committee meeting. Today we have a few topics to discuss. Do you see my screen? Okay, so we have Tekton graduation update, TOC composition discussion to follow up on the previous meetings, then Pyrsia onboarding process, Hacktoberfest status, CD events website refresh, and CD pipeline series. So let's start from the first item. So Tekton graduation update. For that, we actually had a number of items last week. So last week we did a kind of out of order meeting for the TOC, where we discussed what needs to be done. And just to summarize the status for those who missed the meeting, the intent is to reach a decision by KubeCon Detroit, preferably 1 week before that, so that the CDF and the stakeholders can do all the marketing things. To make it happen, actually, there is a number of things that needed to be done, as we discussed at the last meeting. So, for example, there were some remaining issues in governance documentation, also in adopters listing, and OpenSSF best practices. What is important and what is we discussed last meeting, that we don't consider OpenSSF best practices as a showstopper to start the graduation process. There are a few reasons for that. So firstly, all key components of Tekton are already addressed. There are some peripherals and deliverables, but none of them is considered a blocker, as we discussed at the previous meeting. And the previous items like governance documentation and adopters, they're quite small and could be addressed. So this is where we basically stopped at the previous meeting. And I guess, Andrea, you could take over to give a status update. So for me, one of our key discussions for today is whether we start the public comment period today.
Yes, indeed. How do I share screen? Which screen do I want to share? This one. Okay, hopefully you can see. You can see this. So I prepared a PR to the TOC repository with a formal proposal based on the presentation from last week. Okay, so apart from some introduction, okay, talking about Tekton, and introducing a bit the project and why we think it's a good time to graduate. Then we have the list of criteria here in the PR. So starting with the first one. So for each criteria, basically you have the definition of the criteria and the evidence for why I think this is met. So governing board, this we discussed already last week, and so just put the list and link to the documentation. In terms of C2, we made some progress. And so there are 3 of the release documents that are still in progress, and the remaining ones have been merged. So I hope this will be completed. Well, probably not today, but yeah, and within 2 days, hopefully we will be finished with this. C3 committees from 2 orgs, this was already discussed and agreed. Governance and contributing the same. For C5, I marked this as completed now. So for evidence in terms of end users, I put the link to SolarWind keynote where they explain how they use Tekton. And also we have these new adopters files in the community with a few adopters, several open source projects. In terms of vendors and end users, we have IBM for now here, and I've been in touch with other companies, and hopefully we can get more contributions soon. But I wanted to mention that in terms of end users at IBM, Tekton is used as a basis for IBM Cloud's broadly adopted internal DevSecOps pipelines. So this is used by a number of development teams within IBM, and so it's not a small implementation. So I think this is hopefully together with the SolarWind enough to meet the requirement. But we know that there are other end users. We're just going through the process of having them added to this list. Yeah, so usually there is a little bit of legal checks and process that company have to do before adding their name in the list. So that's why it's taking a bit longer. But as I said, from my point of view, I think already SolarWind implementation and IBM implementation would be enough. But yeah, of course, I remit to what the TOC says. In terms of best practices, also we had very good progress. Now 5 out of 6 projects, they are passing, and the last one is on the 94%. Yeah, so just a few final bits that I couldn't get through until today's presentation, but hopefully this will be finished by tomorrow. So release cycles and LTS, this was already marked as passed last time, and same goes for C8, platform for other projects, and C9 attract committers, end user implementations. Yeah, so these are the 2 that we discussed. Sorry, this is marked as work in progress, but I need to update the PR to put the link in here, and security audit as well. And so the remaining ones, just to summarize, is the last bit here for the best practices, and the last 3 release file documentation for triggers, chains, and CLI. And of course, the vote. So as you mentioned, Oleg, my proposal here for today would be to start the vote today. So I would send an email to the TOC mailing list with a link to this PR. I would switch the PR from draft to normal PR, and then I will update it as soon as the final bits are in.
So for me, there are 2 concerns about that. So first of all, so far we agreed only on the OpenSSF page. That means that if you start public vote now, some of other bits wouldn't be landed. Although, yeah, I agree that all of them are relatively low priority. Secondly, yeah, so basically if you start the vote right now, there would be no public comment period except the voting itself, right? It's not a big problem because in the CDF project lifecycle, there is no requirement for public comment period as it is, for example, for the CNCF. I'm just trying to understand the arrangements right now.
Okay, so yep. Go ahead, Steve.
Wouldn't the public be able to comment on the PR or on the mailing list?
Well, of course, they are. The voting is public. The pull request is public.
Right. So wouldn't the public be able to make their comments on that, or are we required to have like a 1-week public comment period? I didn't think that was in the process.
We are not required.
Yeah.
So it's generally a recommendation we try to follow, for example, for Jenkins, but for CDF, it's not a requirement. For CNCF, it is. I don't want to create additional obstacles, just trying to understand what we miss if we start the voting right now. So basically it gives 1 week approximately to make a decision and to give a feedback. But if we start the vote now, I would definitely vote against calling a decision once we get a supermajority. Because it means that, for example, everyone votes this evening and the public doesn't get any opportunity to provide comments.
So previously what we've done is allow non-binding voting so that it gives people a chance to provide feedback as part of that voting process. But it's always run synchronously with the vote on previous projects.
Yeah. So yeah, basically what I suggest. So we set an explicit deadline for any public comments and votes next Tuesday. So basically, well, October 17th. So it's basically next Monday. So the date we discussed last week. But yeah, even if we reach supermajority, let's say tomorrow, we don't call a decision until Monday. Does it work for everyone?
Yeah, the other way to do it would be to open up the vote and let the non-binding votes go through, and then the TOC votes like on Thursday or Friday. We just hold off our binding votes until later in the week, but to kind of watch the non-binding comments come through. You know, it would be officially kicked off, but we would just, as a TOC, just hold off our binding votes till later in the week. Does that make sense?
You know, it's to leave at least a whole week. So for me, it's just yeah, we already expedite the decision to fit the timeline required for KubeCon. But I think that at least some basic time frame should be given, because even if you vote on Thursday, it's 48 hours to provide feedback, which is in open source decisions is actually really short time frame. So my suggestion is just voting until Monday midnight, for example.
Yeah, that will work for me.
Sorry, Oleg, your suggestion is to start the voting on Monday, or
no, to finish the voting on Monday.
So start the voting today and close it out on Monday. And if we get enough binding votes, let's say by Thursday, we would not close the voting officially until Monday. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. So to give some time to anyone raise the questions and address some feedback. Yes, the time frame is still really short, but at least there is some time to provide comments.
yeah, absolutely, that works for me. I mean, I would assume like a fixed end date for the vote anyways. Even if we get all the votes in the beginning, we should wait for the full voting window to go through. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll write down the decision, but if everyone agrees on that, then this is how we could roll.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan for me. And Andrea, you're suspecting that you have a couple of the more PRs on like the process documents and things like that come through in the next day or so?
Yes. For
yeah, those right there.
Yeah, so these are we're working on them. And so triggers is the PR is actually up, but it's not merged yet. And chains and CLI, they're work in progress. And the yeah, the operator is also a PR to the repo to fix something. But yeah, that should be hopefully finished by the end of tomorrow. That's my current target.
Okay,
Mhm.
I figured by the end of the week they would be all in place then.
Yeah, as long as it's in pull request and viewable and properly referenced, like it's currently in the proposal, I think that it's okay.
So would you like me to send an email, Oleg, you think, or should like you to send the email, or what do you think would be best?
Let me send the email then, if you don't mind. So
No,
just
I
to
don't
kick it
mind.
off, because yeah, so yeah, the key reason is basically you're already a sponsor for this decision. So basically doing some separation.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. So
Yeah, we captured some items last week, so maybe it's better for me to just send it, unless somebody else wants to take it.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm capturing the notes. Okay, so I wouldn't expect any negative feedback, but yeah, if there is, let's say, a major feedback, like somebody saying that Tekton doesn't work at all, etc., which is not the case, then yeah, we can revisit in October 17th. But yeah, for now, I think that this is why we started the vote. Okay.
So I'm still relatively new. I just wanted a clarification on that. How often does that happen? How often do we get? I see value in listening and certainly being inclusive and saying, hey, we do want to hear, criticism and thought. But in your experience, has this happened before?
Yes, and well, actually, more the community healthy, more negative, and let's say, yeah, more feedback you get. Some feedback is positive, some feedback is supportive, some feedback is supportive but negative. It depends. So of
Okay.
course, there is still code of conduct, so you won't get feedback like this thing is piece of crap.
Okay.
Sometimes it still happens. But actually, the feedback in a healthy community is an additional way to build consensus and to find issues.
Okay. Understood. I just wanted to really understand. So it's a combination. What is motivating the desire to give time to give feedback, and it is a combination of certainly experience, and also it's in our code of conduct that we actively seek that out.
Yeah, more or less. So
Okay.
yeah, so given that Tekton already has a lot of vendors participating, contributors. So for example, one of expectations would be that when we start this thread for graduation, that these vendors would weigh in and let's say share their opinions, statements that are needed for PR anyway. Or maybe if there are vendors who are not completely happy about the current project state and who actually want to see some bigger changes before it's graduated, they can also weigh in and say that you are too fast. So actually, this is why this discussion is important, because none of us has much idea about what's happening inside the Tekton community right now for this graduation.
Okay, understood. I just trying to get some inside baseball and understand better. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep. So anything else on this topic?
just thanks everyone for the help and guidance support.
Thank you for pushing it. You're battling. Thank you very, very much. I had a wonderful conversation with a Tekton user yesterday, and showing me how they wired it up with Liquibase, and it was the coolest thing. And they just wouldn't shut up about how great it was, how great Tekton was. It's like trying to move that conversation. They kept talking about it.
Yeah.
I also pointed them at adopters.md. So hopefully they'll add themselves.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, so then let's move on. So the next topic for us is TOC composition. So it's mostly submitted by FAT. And there is a few items there. So would you like to go through them?
Yes. So just to give you a background why I want to bring this topic to, for a discussion. As you know, we have been working with many things within CDF to, revive the community, like increase our community's visibility and so on, and fix some of the things that cause difficulties for our communities in the past, like transparency and so on. And while we are working with these things, we notice there are some gaps within our charter. Like when it comes to like governing board chair term or TOC chair term, there is information there, but they are not very clear or explicit. And in addition to that, we are working on rebooting our outreach committee as well to allow more participation in our outreach committee. And while I was thinking that, I said, like, maybe we should look at TOC composition as well, because when this charter was written, we had 6 projects in CDF, if I am not mistaken. And the charter states there are 9 seats in the TOC. But in 2 weeks, we will have our 9th project joining the CDF Pyrsia. So from 6 to 9, that may require us to have a conversation around the number of seats we have within the TOC, currently 9, and the number of project seats, currently 4. And these 2 things, I would like to hear your opinion about it, because we are currently working with the legal team to propose some updates to the charter about like outreach committee and governing board. And if TOC thinks we can, think of increasing number of seats within TOC or increasing the number of projects in the TOC, then we can include those updates into charter as well. And third point there is, we are also trying to bring these different committees we have within the CDF, like Outreach Committee, Tekton Site Committee, Ambassador Program. So these different groups could work closely with each other. And the third item there states that Ambassador Program Chair could become a non-voting member to the TOC. And these are like 3 questions from our side saying, would the TOC like to discuss increasing the number of the seats, in total, increasing the number of project seats within those number of seats we have in TOC, and what the TOC thinks about having Ambassador Program as an observant member to TOC. And the last topic, Oleg, I leave that topic to you, co-chair, if you want.
Okay, yeah, so for co-chair, we basically discussed multiple possible options, and I do not think that these options are exclusive. So first of all, what I would like to ensure that basically all TOC members could be able to host meetings, etc. So means having permissions to Bevy, or when we move out of Bevy for Zoom, if it happens, have Zoom credentials. So yeah, it's something for CDF to decide, but I would definitely want to ensure that everyone has access to them, so that if something goes wrong, anyone could host the meetings or do some ad hoc things. Secondly, yeah, co-chair is something that for me, I would rather say it's rather ensuring that there is some continuity in the role. So as I said before, I will step down next August. And yeah, taking the current situation in the world, so last 2 weeks ago, I just forgot there is a meeting at all because I was occupied with other things. So basically having a kind of co-chair or co-chairs who are basically studying the things, who have all the permissions, who can host the meetings on demand would be quite important. And yeah, it doesn't have to be even a single person. It might be every TOC member on a kind of rotation basis. So for example, there is no need to just me chair the meetings. Everybody can do that. Everybody can take meeting notes, etc. So basically, this is the topic I would definitely suggest to discuss. So firstly, ensuring everyone has permissions and ensuring that we have continuity and a buzz factor bigger than one at the moment.
Yeah, I think adding a co-chair would definitely help distribute the burden of managing the TOC. And like you said, if one person can't make it, then the other person can jump in and stuff like that. I think just it's going to give overall a better consistency in the TOC having a chair and a co-chair.
Okay. Yeah. So the question is, if you introduce this role, again, it doesn't have to be just one co-chair. The question, who would be potentially interested in taking this role? Because, yeah, definitely have a few names in mind, but I believe that anyone in the current TOC could actually take this role if they have enough bandwidth, which is something not usually visible from the community side. So the question is, who would be potentially interested?
I mean, if nobody else is interested, I can jump in.
I believe a willingness to do it is an outstanding quality for this role.
Are you're putting your name in the hat then, Robert?
No, I am not. Hey, I'm still new guy. I need to hang out in the back for a little while and help and support. But like the point is that like willingness to raise your hand, I think that speaks volumes. Thank you.
No worries.
A question about this before we move. We can, and we should perhaps document this in our charter. It says TOC chair. Now we can say TOC chair. The TOC is chaired by a chair and a co-chair elected from within TOC. And now we are in this interim period, obviously. And thanks, Steve, for stepping up. Maybe next time this could be an election as well, like TOC chair, co-chair election together, for example.
That's what I would envision too down the road.
Yeah.
So basically, it's up to the TOC to sort it out. We can define any process as we wish. So it's not a wide election in the community. So I agree that we need a charter update. So basically, how I would approach it. So submit a pull request with charter. I can probably take a first step, or if somebody else wants to write it.
Charter must be written by legal team. So we will pass this feedback to legal team. And then once they bring the redlined version or whatever, we need to bring that back to you for review of those updates they will be making.
Okay, so we just have 10 months to get it.
We have time.
And we have to do that for, are we talking about the TOC charter or the CDF charter?
CDF charter. CDF charter.
Okay.
This is written in the CDF charter.
Okay, I wasn't sure which one it was written in.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't mind, but it definitely increases the duration of this cycle. So, I mean, we could probably split the process to two parts.
Time out. Why does it, are you talking about your expanding your role as chair?
No, actually, introducing a role of a co-chair. So basically, a role which would be more or less deputy chair or whatever we call it. So with the same permissions, for example, there is one open question, for example, access to the governing board materials and participation in the meetings. Because there is hosting TOC meetings, and basically nobody cares from Linux Foundation Legal who hosts it.
Yeah.
but there are things like budgets, etc. And let's say I get hit by a bus, and tomorrow we have a budgeting meeting. So is co-chair supposed to be at the meeting? Probably.
I would hope so, because I Steve volunteered, and now I'm going to lay out my expectations. He might want to unvolunteer. I would hope that this is on the job training. I would hope that this is, let's understand the role. Let's help out our chair. Let's carry share the burden, with the intent that, with experience, that it would be a shoo-in for chair. I mean, certainly up for election and those sorts of things. I like continuity. I'm a big fan of that.
So for continuity, so one part of that, we can start whatever knowledge transfers, whatever things like hosting meetings, etc. It doesn't need legal, it doesn't need chat updates. We can do it tomorrow. And I suggest that we basically make it a kind of informal agreement between us that there is a person who is interested to be co-chair, maybe multiple of them, and we just start. And then eventually Linux Foundation Legal will come up with a document, the CDF will figure out how it maps to the governing board charter, because it's one of the consequent issues.
Right. Understood.
And then these formalities eventually get sorted. But for day-to-day operations, we don't need that part.
Yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I just what point of clarification, that the next time there's a chair TOC election, I would hope it would be co-chair and chair at the same time. Okay. All right. Cool. Sorry, I zeroed in on you saying something at extending the dates, and I'm sorry, I zeroed in on that. I apologize. I confused myself unnecessarily. Happens a lot.
And then just a point on that, I think that what we would have is not a chair and a co-chair. We'd have elections for 2 co-chairs, so they're equal.
Works for me as well.
Yeah. So it's not
I just wanted to get
president.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's not a president vice president arrangement. It's a co-chair arrangement where they work equally to make sure things get done.
Also works. Maybe it's even better.
Because I know that previously when we talked some of the situations within the TOC, we were trying to stagger the transition of people so that we never had a complete change at one point, and then that loss of institutional knowledge. So I'm just wondering whether this is one of those examples where having 2 equal co-chairs but 2 elections at different periods would make more sense from a risk management perspective, rather than electing both at the same time.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
That's an interesting situation, because the TOC chair, the term is for 1 year. And the TOC, if we think about co-chairs, 2 people, for example, if we say the TOC chair is currently elected during July and gets seated during August, and the TOC elections happen, I think, in May, April, depending on the end user versus project. So the co-chair may not get re-elected, because it's 1 year term. That may make that co-chair not member of TOC.
Which is okay, because I think what has to happen is the board should then, once the board's been elected, the board should elect who the co-chairs are.
But the TOC elects the co-chairs, not board.
Yeah, TOC.
Correct. That's what I was saying. The TOC board should elect should make a decision on who the chairs are. Once the elections are done, once the elections are over, then everybody knows who's on the board, on the TOC board. Then the board decides who's the co-chairs, regardless of who it might have been at last time.
Yeah. So I guess it brings up a question to the Linux Foundation legal again, because while every foundation is formally independent, there is a kind of legal framework, and obviously Linux Foundation wouldn't be happy to handle 40 different charters. So yeah, I think we can bring up ideas and see what they say. But
Yeah,
generally, I'm in favor of having two co-chairs.
I think, like, if you look at the charter, it doesn't explicitly state how the election should be done. It just says elects annually. So the election process is like TOC can say we want to run this type of election process, and it adheres to what is documented in the charter. So as long as that is adhering to charter, I think it should be fine. But we can ask this question to legal people to see if they have any issues with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what else can we do with that at this moment? So my proposal would be to just delegate it to the Linux Foundation legal, basically say that here are ideas. What would you say?
Yeah. What about the seats question? Again, I'm not expecting the answer right now. Just, does it make sense to think about this or continue the conversation around is it enough number of seats, 9 or 4 project seats? Is it enough?
So we have several topics, but yeah, we can just finish talk composition quickly. Let's say time box it to 5 minutes and then glance through other topics. Yeah. So basically, 3 questions: number of seats, number of project seats, and ambassador program chair. So for number of seats, for me, one of the biggest concerns is number of project seats. Because we have only 4, and right now we already have potential issues. So more projects we get, less opportunities to get elected for projects, especially for the newcomer projects. Plus, we can move it in other way. So let's say we have 2 graduated projects, Jenkins and Tekton. Let's say whether graduated projects should have a reserved seat for them or not. It's also subject to the governance and our decisions. So my gut feeling that from one side, increasing the number of project seats would be nice. But at the same time, if we had all 9 TOC members, it's already more than 2 pizza-sized team, and it's already quite difficult to collaborate. If we assume that everyone shows up at the meetings, plus CDF representatives, plus some TOC contributors. So in this regards, it seems that we already have quite a lot of TOC members.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, it's not given, I think, that all projects would want to have someone on the TOC.
Like we discovered this summer.
And also, I think, I mean, the TOC meetings are open if people from projects wants to join in and contribute their votes. I think they will not get the binding vote if you're not on the TOC, but I mean, as we were discussing earlier, I mean, we listen to everyone's opinion and ideas if they come on the meeting. So I'm not sure we need to match the number of projects to the number of seats.
Then we can ignore this point until we do the, the co-chair thing. And if it makes sense, I can open up an issue in TOC repo. We can have conversation there. Like, as I said, we don't have to decide or come up with a number right now. I just want to highlight this. We are doing this work and just want to give you a chance to start thinking.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Can we do a metrics-based approach to this and actually monitor demand for people putting themselves forward for roles, and then potentially adjust the numbers based on the amount of demand?
It's a bit complicated because we have TOC consisting of 3 ways of getting into the TOC role. So we have end users, which is not exactly, well, there are not so many end user companies in the CDF right now. Then we have governing board appointed seats, and then we have project seats. So we can pull project seats, but I'm not sure about others.
But for each of those, we're accepting nominations for those positions. So should we start to record that data and then use that to inform this decision in the future? So we've got a better picture of, you know, what the demand is in which areas, and then use that to help inform the decision.
I can gather number of nominees based on past elections for each different like end user, project reps, and come up with some average number. For this election, we got this many nominations and so on as an additional input.
I think that would be useful.
Yeah, I will do that. Okay.
Yeah, there is one another ballot remaining because ambassador program chair as non-voting member. So basically, we had a quick conversation before with Fatih. So for that, my feedback that we have TOC contributors. And again, right now, I don't see what would be the benefit of adding a non-voting member entity to the TOC. Maybe we should approach in another way, is updating chart for ambassador program chair to be responsible or to delegate responsibility to participate in the TOC meeting as a TOC contributor. Because from the TOC chart, everything is in place.
That's a good idea, actually, Oleg. I will include this in our long list of charter updates because, yeah, anyway, we are past 5 minutes. But I will come up with some draft updates to charter based on the conversations we have been having when our legal team comes back.
But I'm not sure that ambassador program chair is anywhere in our charter. For this particular role, I'm not sure it's even documented anywhere.
Yeah, it's documented there. One sentence.
Okay.
But it's not clear. It's not clear in the charter. That's
Okay.
why I brought the topic, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, then I think that we have Linux Foundation legal busy for some time. And yeah, so the next topic is Pyrsia onboarding.
This will be pretty fast because we are nearly done with onboarding. So the Slack channel and Google Calendar meetings listed there and so on, those community things have been done quite some time ago. And as of yesterday, the project contribution agreement was sent to the contributing organization, and we expect that to be signed during this week. At latest, it will be signed before CD Summit, hopefully. And we are working on a press release in collaboration with, again, contributing organization. And Oleg, I will come to you about that press release once we have the draft there for quote, because we don't get new projects all the time, and this is an important contribution.
I know that you already pinged me, and I basically didn't reply. So one question for legal process: is it basically the company contributor license agreement we have on LFX enrollment, or is it something else?
No, something else. I think this limited liability company or LLC formation, that is what is taking some time. This Pyrsia will be admitted as this LLC entity, and there is what is called a template agreement, and then that was sent to the contributing organization, and there were feedback for that. So updates, legal updates, and that's why it took longer than usual. So it's like this Delaware corporation, whatever thing,
Yeah. So it's like,
and also Pyrsia project is adopting a TOC charter as well. That was part of this onboarding. I believe Sudhindra presented this to Pyrsia project governance body, and that will be included or put up in their repository. So multiple things happening in parallel with this legal thing. Yeah.
Which is cool. So thanks a lot for pushing it, and
Okay.
hopefully this formality will be closed now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, from the TOC standpoint, basically nothing changes. So we can operate with the project regardless of the legal status. So,
Exactly.
but thanks a
And-
lot for completing these leftovers.
And they will be able. They're all set to be able to announce at KubeCon then, right?
Yeah, that is like that's CD Summit is happening on October 25th, and that is the day we will publish a press release talking about Pyrsia, as well as if Tekton graduates, Tekton graduation will be there, and as well as CD events release if it happens. So
Okay.
there will be multiple updates, hopefully.
All right, and that's all for CD Summit then on the
Yeah.
25th.
25th, yeah. That is the target date.
So it means you need 2 cakes for this event, one for Tekton and another one for Pyrsia.
2 what?
Cakes.
Okay. Oh, maybe 3.
Usually there is a cake.
CD
for
events
some-
is released.
And
Yeah.
city events release as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all about Pyrsia.
Okay, thanks a lot for the update. So the next topic for us is Hacktoberfest status. So yeah, it's just a quick one. So we have 6 projects participating. All projects are announced. If you're not on the list, you can still join. And yeah, if you have any content, I believe that CDF outreach team will be super happy to promote it. So basically, new features, blog posts, contributing guidelines, webinar recordings, whatever. Anything else on this topic?
I just wanted to say we got a couple of contributions on city events already. That's good.
And we're getting some on the Ortelia side as well through Hacktoberfest.
Which is cool. So we definitely have some in Jenkins, though it's a bit difficult to track across the organization. Last time I checked, there was something like 10-ish pull requests explicitly referencing Hacktoberfest. But yeah, you never know, because for participating projects, you need a contributor to be explicit. So I guess we have more usual suspects contributing. Okay, and yeah, the next topic is the events refresh.
Yeah, very briefly. We discussed some budget that was left for city events, and I mean, we discussed within city events, and the thing that we were looking to do is some refresh at the website, making it look more nice and professional, and maybe have some technical review on the content that is written nicely. So the question is that budget still there to spend? And also, I mean, we have the idea, but we don't have someone to actually go and do it. So is that something that, from CDF point of view, do we have some channel to find someone who would be able to do that? Or is that something that we need to drive ourselves as a project?
Reach out to Linux Foundation creative team to see if they could help with that, but it also depends on the budget, like 10K if I am correct. So we have this that they're like, if you want, I can ask this, but you need to provide input like how it should look like. Then they can scope the work and tell us this costs this much, or this can be done this in this period of time. Or you look for, some scoreships or LFX thingy.
Okay. I mean,
so
alternative.
one of the low-cost ways is just to bring up this topic in the JSOC channel we have on the CDF Slack and on other projects, saying that, hey, there is opportunity. If you're interested, please reach out.
Yeah. I mean, there are also platforms like freelancer.com where you can post project for a certain amount of money and find people. But yeah, okay, I'll try with the GSOC project and okay.
This summer I tried poking a few people for documentation idea, but yeah, I didn't get anywhere there. Hopefully for the web interface, this is much more popular area in open source.
So will the budget expire at the end of the year if it's not used? Is that end of December, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had for this. Thank
you. Okay, and then CD pipeline series.
So I added that topic because today the first episode of the new series got published. This is like Lori, Michelle, and Roxanne. They've been working a lot with the Tekton TV, and this complete new series. Like you remember, we had this podcast, like the Pipeline podcast, which we are not running anymore. And this conversation started around August, I think. Since August, we've been working on getting this, making this a reality, and now it happened. So the plan is to have one episode per month, and the first episode is Tekton, and the next episode will be Jenkins, and we will have not just project episodes but other types of topics as well, and we will reach out to community to invite them to take part in this series. So and please go and watch. Andrea did a great job there together with Tibio, Lee, and Lori.
Thanks a lot for doing that. And for Jenkins, is it already said? Because
it's not recorded yet, but the few people are identified to take part in the episode, the panel.
Okay.
So it will be targeted November, I think. Yeah.
Thanks. Just to know.
Yeah. And this is driven by Outreach Committee, by the way. If you want to reach out and propose topics, just reach out to Outreach Committee, and they will help you with.
I think this is perfectly fine, and yeah, Outreach Committee chat is now open, right? On the CDF TOC, so you can just drop it there.
Let me check.
Yeah, we have ambassador channel that is still private due to reasons unknown, and Outreach, which is public.
Yeah, exactly. That was all about this topic.
Okay, and this is the last topic in the agenda. We also have 3 minutes left, so just enough time to grumble about time zone changes and how it impacts everyone, right? So we keep the next meeting 4 p.m. UTC, right? Unless somebody wants to change. But if somebody cannot participate, we can try to move and start a new poll. But yeah, you know the drill.
We're willing to put up with it on for myself. Too many moving parts those couple weeks.
Okay. So for me, 4 p.m. UTC works perfectly next week. And the weeks after should be fine too. Okay. Then I guess we keep the next meeting as is. And then when everyone switches to winter time, then if there are serious conflicts, we do another pool.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. I'll announce to the meeting right away. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day. And
bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks. Bye.